Hey guys, welcome back to the Great Ones channel, and welcome to a quickie review. Pretty much I'm going to be reviewing 3 movies in one video. Very quickly, I'm going to try to quickly review these movies, and that's pretty much it. I've never done this before, so hopefully this will be quick. Starting off with The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, also known as the movie. Easily one of the most anticipated horror movies of the year, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, or I'll just call it The Conjuring 3, is finally here. It's been out for a few weeks now, and I was able to go see it in theaters. And review-wise, from critics and all that, it's been doing okay, I guess. And when I say okay reviews, I literally mean okay reviews. Some have been bad, and some have been okay. So, and that could be because of the change of directors. The director who did The Curse of La Llorona is coming to do this movie. And I have seen The Curse of La Llorona, and I was not really a big fan of that. There were some scenes with some good tension building, with scares and stuff, and sometimes the payoff was just not that good. But there was some good tension building at times, but either way, that movie was just not great. So going into this movie, I was just like, I don't know. So yeah, that was pretty much my expectations going into this movie. So what did I think of The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It? Not a great title. I'm not a big fan of that title, first and foremost. But what did I think of this movie? It's not amazing. I wasn't really into it. They clearly were trying to do a different thing with this movie. They were trying to go for a new story, something different, because the first 2 Conjuring movies were just fun haunted house type movies with loads of scares and stuff, and it's just entertainment. With this movie, they tried to do something different with, like, rituals and other stuff, and they were trying to do something different, which I will say I appreciate them for doing. They tried to do something different with this movie compared to the other movies, but for me personally, it didn't really work, and I wasn't really into the story, and I just couldn't really get into it, you know, I couldn't really get into the story. I wasn't interested in, yeah. There are some new characters in this movie, but this definitely still puts the focus on Ed and Lorraine Warren, and who, just like the other movies, are very likable, and they're very funny, and you just really care about these characters that you've known throughout these Conjuring movies, and, you know, they're just really good in this movie, and you just hope they don't get killed by this demon ritual woman thing, and you just care about them, and they're just very likable characters. And my favorite scenes in the movie, I won't say what they are. I mean, I won't describe them because this is a spoiler-free review with all of these movies. But the most memorable scenes for me, and which I also consider to be my favorite scenes, is the opening of the movie and a scene that takes place in the forest. Those 2 scenes are probably my favorite scenes of the whole movie. They're just really good. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Those 2 scenes are probably the best scenes in the whole movie. Those are my 2 favorite scenes. And yeah, other than that, there's quite a few things I don't really like about this movie. The jump scares in this movie, there are some decent jump scares here and there, but nonetheless, they're more predictable in this movie. Like with the first 2 Conjuring movies, there was just a lot of like really unexpected jump scares. Like the way the jump scares were directed in those movies, they felt really unexpected, and they were just more well done. I don't know, I was more into those jump scares. Jesus Christ! Now you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so the jump scares from the first 2 movies really got me a lot more than these. These were a lot more predictable, and I just wasn't really into them. Yeah, so yeah. And the movie didn't really do a good job at scaring me. This movie didn't really scare me. You know, just looking at this as a movie that's meant to really make you feel fear, didn't do the best job. It didn't really scare me. It was just a bunch of jump scares, like I said, that were a little more predictable in this movie. And, you know, just some freaky imagery that I guess the filmmakers themselves just found scary, but didn't really scare me. You know, you got scenes, or like kids, like a kid getting his like whole body like twisted up and shit. It's kind of gross. They're like, ew, gross. But it's not really scary, per se. It's not scary. It's like, oh my god, fear, I'm scared. It's just like, that's gross. But yeah, the movie, unfortunately, doesn't do a good job at, like, scaring you. There's, like, really weird-looking ghosts in this movie. And yeah, it just doesn't do a good job at scaring you. There's some really slow moments here and there. I know I might say that a lot in my reviews. I don't know. But there's some really slow moments, a lot of exposition scenes, and yeah, there's a few of those. So the movie gets really slow at times, and you're just like, oh my god, just stop, please. So yes, unfortunately, there are some really boring moments here and there. The villain in this movie, which is like a woman who does like ritual type stuff, so that's back to this with the new story, trying to do something different, which I do respect them for doing, but unfortunately, it just wasn't all that interesting compared to the first 2 movies. It's just like this woman, this evil woman who does stuff and is trying to take over this boy and trying to make him kill himself. And yeah, I don't know. And she has a bit of a twist to her character. She was okay. She wasn't bad per se, but she wasn't all that memorable. She has like a plot twist in a way to a particular character, like a connection to a particular character that I wasn't expecting, but I was just like, oh, okay, sure, all right, sure. So this particular villain was different compared to the other movies, because the other movies were just a bunch of demons and ghosts, but this one was different. But other than that, she was kind of forgettable, and yeah, it's kind of a weird villain. There are some cool scenes, likable characters, and a different story, but unfortunately The Conjuring 3 doesn't really work for me. It has a lot of scares that aren't really that scary, a lot of predictable jump scares, freaky imagery that I didn't find all that frightening, really slow moments, and a very weird villain, and just The Conjuring 3 is just eh. And would I recommend you see The Conjuring 3? Well, if you want to see some predictable jump scares and some really slow moments, sure. Up next is A Quiet Place Part 2, and man, I'm actually pretty excited to talk about this movie.
And yeah, I was not expecting I was going to go see this movie in theaters, but I did, and I had a good time.
Movie, very intense movie, very scary movie, intense movie, not really scary, but intense. The sequel to one of the most intense movies that has come out in a really long time has finally arrived, and I was pretty excited to see this movie because I was invited to see it. I didn't think I was gonna see it, but I was invited to see the movie. Yay! So what did I think of A Quiet Place Part 2? I really enjoyed this one. I had a good time watching this movie. So yeah, I guess I'll get into some nitpicks straight off the bat because this is a quickie. So, I guess there was some really slow moments. I'm sorry I'm saying that again. I guess there was like maybe one or two scenes that go on for a little too long, and maybe it's like a build-up or it's tension rising to like a big scare or some sort of action scene, and it's kind of going on for too long. All right, you're just like, all right, come on, get to the point, hurry up, I know it's coming, and then it's too slow. So there's that, and you got maybe some like new characters coming into this movie, or one in particular that comes into this movie and he kind of just disappears in a way that I won't say, and you're kind of just like, oh, okay, bye, new character introduced. But I guess that kind of makes sense because you never know who's gonna die. It's a big apocalypse pretty much, and you just never know who's gonna get killed off or not. So I guess it kind of makes sense, but just a little nitpick. And I guess the ending of the movie, I will not say, spoiler free, found it feeling a little too abrupt. For a movie like this that I really had a good time watching, I was kind of sad when the movie ended. I was like, no, I want more. So when the ending feeling really abrupt, I was just like, oh, damn it. So that's really it with my nitpicks for the movie. The characters in this movie, pretty much the three main leads from the first movie, return in this movie, and you care about them throughout. You've gotten to know them from the first movie, and you just feel for them throughout the whole movie because they go through some really nasty shit, and you feel for them going through this apocalypse. And you're just like sad. Like these movies really make me sad. Just being in this world, you have to stay quiet and stuff. It just makes me sad, and you see them all going through these intense moments, and you're just like you're freaking out. You don't want these characters to die, including the new character played by Cillian Murphy, and you care about him as well. You hope he doesn't die as well. You really care about him, and he's going through some shit. You just feel for these characters. And yes, just like the first movie, this sequel has some really intense scenes. It's just scenes where you just like, if you're worried for the characters, you're worried if one of the characters makes one little tiny noise, then they're screwed, they're dead. And it was this fear that you had while watching the first movie, and it's here and again in the second movie, of course. It's just, the intense scenes about the monsters or the characters running for their lives. There was like one particular scene, there was a chase, like the characters running for their lives, and me in the movie theater just chilling, got a packet of M&Ms in my hand, and I'm just chewing away as the scene goes, and I'm just like, oh, nope. And yes, that was basically my reaction throughout that whole scene. Seriously, I was digging through my M&Ms. I was terrified. In one scene in particular, this image I'm showing right now, what's happening in this scene. I'm not going to describe it because spoiler free once again. I'm not going to describe what's happening, but oh my god, this is probably my favorite scene in the whole movie just from the feelings you get from this scene. The intensity, the sadness. Like, you feel sad, you feel intense, you're scared for these characters of what's going on in that scene. That scene in particular just, you'll know what I mean when that scene pops up, because that scene, holy shit, you're terrified. Like, oh my god. So that's one of the most intense scenes I have ever seen in a movie in like such a long time. Yeah, more about the characters, like more about the new character played by Cillian Murphy. You immediately just like really like this character, you know, because he goes on this journey, this adventure with the deaf girl. I'm sorry, I forgot her name, but they go on this little adventure together, and you just really like this character. You just immediately just weirdly kind of just like him. And feel for him at the same time. You know, it all this whole adventure leads to them being in this town, and if you've seen the trailer, you kind of know what happens there. Yeah, it's not some pretty rough, but yeah, about that scene, that's fucking a great scene, by the way, very good scene. And yeah, just the best parts about this movie is just the intense scenes and the fear of something bad happening to these characters is what made this film so enjoyable. Is what pretty much threw away all the nitpicks and made this movie so goddamn enjoyable. Yeah, that's what made this movie so good. Is those intense scenes, the feelings for the characters. Not a lot really happens in this movie. Looking back at it, it's just the intense scenes that make you really feel for these characters and make you enjoy this movie from beginning to end. And that's what I really love about this movie. Like I literally just said, you know, you just feel for these characters so much that the intense scenes, you really feel the intense. You really feel it. And that's what made this movie so enjoyable and made the nitpicks just, like, go away. So yes, A Quiet Place Part 2, I really, really enjoyed it. The performances in this movie, you know, performed, you know, with the characters and, you know, performed by the actors, they did a great job. And overall, just A Quiet Place 2 is a great, great, great sequel. And would I recommend you see this movie? Yes. Yes, see this movie. This is just one of those movies you need to experience in a movie theater. Go see it. Phew, yeah, I know this video is now 12 minutes long, but now we're finally going to be talking about Black Widow. Yeah, let's see Black Widow. Yeah, a new Marvel movie. Yeah. Finally, after one whole year of waiting, the Black Widow movie has finally been released. This is a movie that people have been wanting for many, many years, and now it's finally here. Yeah, I'm sorry, Black Widow, Marvel fans, it's finally here. It took a while, but it's finally fucking here. But here you go, it's finally here, yay. Super exciting, yeah, this is the first Marvel movie to ever come out since Spider-Man Far From Home, which was a complete masterpiece, yeah.
I'm joking!
And what did I think of Black Widow? Didn't really like it. Didn't really find much enjoyment out of this movie. I just couldn't really enjoy it. Even if it's a fucking Marvel movie, I just couldn't really enjoy this movie. With what I did like, Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, she does a good job. She does a good job as this character. She did pretty good. Black Widow's sister, I don't remember her name, but she's pretty good in the movie, I think. Yeah, she's pretty good. Yeah, she has some pretty good humor here and there, or decent humor. But yeah, she's pretty good in the movie. David Harbour as whatever his name is. I don't remember his name. He's not too bad in this movie. And Black Widow's mum, don't remember her name. She's not too bad. I guess she's okay. But yeah, all the actors who play these characters do a very good job with their performance. Performances are pretty good. The action scenes in this movie are decent. They're nothing really all that special. But they're decent, I guess. Yeah. The CGI in this movie is not too bad. It's like the action scenes. They're nothing really all that special, but they're not bad. They're okay. And Taskmaster as the villain in this movie, kind of the brief villain. She, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I'm just gonna say she. Taskmaster. I like the idea that Taskmaster has kind of like the same abilities as like some of the Avengers. She has like the same type of powers and abilities that the Avengers have. That's a really cool idea. I like what they did with that with Taskmaster, but I do kind of wish there was more of that because it didn't seem like enough. But I like the idea. I like the idea that Taskmaster had that. That was a pretty good idea, but I just wish there was a little bit more of that. And there's an after credit scene that sets up another movie for a particular character. Pretty interesting. I was like, okay, good to know. And yeah, that's pretty much it. The story, whatever the story was in this movie, I have no idea, but I was not at all invested with the story. It was an okay story, but I just wasn't all that invested with it. I mean, I guess, maybe the relationship between Black Widow and her sister, that was kind of a nice thing to see, but everything else, I just wasn't all that interested with the story and what these characters had to do, and I didn't find the story all that engaging. And when you have a very uninteresting story, there's going to be some really boring moments. And there was some really legitimately boring scenes in this movie. I was just like that. I was just kind of bored. I just wasn't interested. So with an uninteresting story, there's going to be some really boring moments, and there was a few of them. And the typical Marvel humor did not help at all. Yes, the humor in this movie just wasn't great. It was just your typical Marvel humor. Some funny, some like, oh, I don't know, maybe one or two scenes that maybe got a little chuckle out of me, like, that's it. And like everyone in the theater was laughing out loud, which was great. I'm glad to see that people found the movie legitimately funny. I guess it wasn't my type of sense of humor. There was like one or two scenes that made me chuckle. That was it. And yeah, the humor just did not help in this movie. And the villain in this movie, I know what you're thinking, it's Taskmaster. There's another villain in this movie. I don't know who this guy was. I'm not going to say just in case he hasn't been shown in any trailers. I think he has. But I don't know how to describe him. He's just this old guy in a suit, in this just typical business suit, I think. I don't know who the fuck he was. He was like, I think he was like, I won't get too much into him, but I just wasn't into this villain. There was just one scene between him and Black Widow that went on for so long, and I was like, his performance and his accent just made me want to laugh. You know, it was such a long scene, and it was just this villain. I'm just like, who the fuck's this guy? I did not care about the villain. Taskmaster, the idea of him having the same abilities as the Avengers was cool. It was a cool idea, but it didn't feel like they did much with it, which kind of upset me. I was like, damn, I wanted a bit more out of that. That was such a cool idea, and they didn't do much with it. And this villain, this old guy, who the fuck is this guy? So yeah, I don't know. The villain in this movie is just, this movie was not, it was just boring, and Marvel, just no. Decent characters, decent performances, decent action scenes, decent CGI, with some typical humor, and a bland villain and an uninteresting story. Black Widow is just not my type of movie. And would I recommend you guys go check out Black Widow? Well, if you're still into these MCU movies, then yes, go check it out. You know, just like the people in my movie theater, everyone had a great time, it seemed. Everyone loved this movie. Everyone laughed. They had a great time watching the movie, it seems. So you'll probably have a good time as well. You never freaking know. So sure, but if you're kind of sick of Marvel's typical stuff that they do in every movie and you just kind of want something different, then I guess this might not be the one. So who knows? Just check it out if you want to, but this one just might not be the one. This is going to be the end of my quickie reviews on The Conjuring 3, Quiet Place Part 2, and Black Widow. Hope you enjoyed. This wasn't really a quickie because this video is pretty damn long. I'm very sorry. This is just a more shorter reviews on these movies. If it was just one video on one of these movies, then this would be like a full-on 10-minute video reviewing, I don't know, Black Widow or Quiet Place or Conjuring 3. But since it's reviewing all these movies in one video, I'm reviewing them a little bit shorter. So that's pretty much what it was, what the quickie was all meant, what it all meant. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. And yeah, thank you for watching. And you know, just Black Widow. Would have thought of these movies just not really engaging in the story with Black Widow, and just feeling the intense of A Quiet Place Part 2, and with Conjuring 3, just not feeling those unexpected jump scares that was in those first two Conjuring movies, just not feeling those really out of nowhere unexpected jump scares that those first two movies had. My house! Damn it!